Outriders is a game that has been on my radar since its release back in 2021, and as someone that loves looter shooters, this game always seemed to be like something I would gravitate towards. And unfortunately, I just never got around to playing it until now. But not only will I be playing Outriders, I'm gonna go for 100% completion by getting all of the achievements. Now, outside of watching just a few videos here and there showing gameplay back when this released, I really don't know much about Outriders at all. Even reading through the achievements list had me confused, and not to mention boasting some challenges that less than 1% of players have unlocked. However, since the game has no missable achievements, I think the game plan is just going to be complete the game, unlocking whatever achievements we get along the way and enjoying our run. Then we move into the cleanup phase, which will be taking care of any side quests or collectibles type of achievements. From there, fully maxing out our character and tackling the end game. But with a list of 52 achievements to unlock, this was going to take some time, so I had to get started. And of course, first things first is my favorite part of looter shooters, and that's selecting your character, which we're going to be spending a lot of time with this character, so no pressure. After some relatively basic character creation, we jumped into the prologue, getting some lore, combat, and following objectives. Then we get our first taste of actual combat, and I gotta be honest, just this little intro sequence felt great so far. We do end up catching the itis though, and have to get put in cryo. Next thing we know, we awaken in a futuristic Skyrim intro, and get the campaign achievement, Awoken to a Nightmare. And now it was time to pick our class. The game offers you 4 class choices. The Technomancer, which excels in long range using gadgets like turrets and mines. The Pyromancer, which is, as expected, the fire-focused class. The Trickster is very close range, run and gun, freeze time, which I think is like the most popular just from what I've seen online, and it was actually going to be my choice for this run. And then finally the Devastator, which is like an earth focused tank class. And after some deliberation, I decided we'll be going with Technomancer because it reminded me of Axton from Borderlands 2, which was my main and is the best character in that game. I don't want to hear it, Zero or Gunzerker players, it's the truth and you know I'm right. But okay, deep cut Borderlands 2 references out of the way, and not soon after that we're introduced to our first Altered, which is actually what we've become too, which explains our newfound powers. And from here we actually unlock side quests, and though the mission's name was A Bad Day, I was having a great day because we got the achievement Urgent Task. And also apparently our character in this game is like a pure Chad.
Well, I was hoping I'd see you around these parts again.
Well, you just made a lousy day 2.5% better.
What an idiot!
But next up, it's boss battle time, and Electro bites the dust, and we net ourselves in Road to Hero achievement, and we then get our first class upgrade. Each class in this game gets a number of different abilities to choose from, as well as upgrading your skill tree depending on your build and playstyle. And after unlocking our first skill, we got the Gathering Storm achievement. After some more time speedrunning through missions, shooting and looting as we do, we get to Eagle Peaks, the first area in this game that really showed me that the graphics are like pretty sweet. Not to mention, you start at the snowy peaks of a mountain, and then next thing you know, you're in this like underground volcano crater fighting a lava spider that turns into a Resident Evil boss. This area happens literally out of nowhere, but as I'm writing this, I'm really hoping there's more environments like this along the way. But after defeating the Molten Akari, we get to level 10 for the Fortune Favors the Bold achievement. And not too long after that, we take out a few elites guarding a radio tower, we send an Uber to pick up our boy, and we get the Wavelengths and Wishes achievement. Eventually, we start heading off to a new area, Trenchtown, escorting the truck and taking out hordes of enemies along the way, where we got a few combat achievements. Clash of the Altered for taking out 5 elites only using skills, which with the Technomancer rocket launcher, that was a breeze. And then Fist Bump for Falcon punching 50 enemies.
Welcome! Punch!
And we do find ourselves in like this World War I trench warfare mission and storming the enemies across an open field. I thought this part was sick. And then eventually we have to storm a hilltop bunker, and this is where I started to feel the difficulty ramping up a little bit. So Outriders has a world tier system, and basically the higher the world tier, the better the loot, but the harder the enemies. And from my understanding, if you're going for 100% in this game, you might as well keep bumping up the world tiers as you unlock them, because this will help later on. But man, if it wasn't for my rockets and this heal skill I just unlocked, I'd be getting rolled already. Mind you, I'm also speedrunning the entire campaign for these story achievements, so I'm probably severely underleveled, and it's only gonna get worse. But that's a problem for later, I guess. Anyway, after storming the bunker, we get our next boss fight, Moloch. No, not that one. A short mission or two later, we end up picking up a bunch of batteries for our truck to head into the next section of the game, the forest, and get ourselves a story achievement, One Way Ride. Right from here, we actually get dropped into another boss fight, and by defeating it, we get our first legendary rarity item, which was this cowboy hat. and after equipping it, we net ourselves the Spoils of War achievement. After a pretty lengthy fight in a stronghold, we get another story achievement, Malpractice, for putting an end to Skurlock. And there's only 4 more of these campaign achievements to go, it looks like, so I feel like I'm making pretty good progress. A short while later, we have our next altered encounter. We take them out as well, though now on World Tier 7, it actually took me a few tries, I won't lie. However, on the 3rd try, the boss gets defeated, and we ended up racking up a total of 1 million damage for the Snap of the Fingers achievement. And I get to this new area where I'm pretty much immediately jumped by dozens of enemies, so I decide to make a big brain play and let them all spawn in and start aggroing me, only to just shoot a rocket right at my feet and get the Misfortune Loves Company achievement for taking out 10 enemies all within 2 seconds of each other. With how many enemies this game throws at you all the time, this was a guaranteed one, but still fun to get. And not long after that, we arrive at the gates of the forest, and again I'm reminded that the environments in this game just look so good. But once going through them, we get the Breaking the Seal achievement. A brisk run through the desert finds us at an old monastery where the next boss, Yagak,
What the hell is even that?
awaits us, and honestly, this one kind of felt like a Dark Souls boss. I don't know how to describe it, but it's definitely the base for a Dark Souls game with guns. That's all I'm saying. After making easy work of him, we get the next story achievement, Fatherhood Ain't Easy Boss, for defeating Yagak in Utargak. I was back at the campsite and messing around with some weapon mods and things like that, so I decided to quickly grab the Extreme Engineering achievement, and shortly after that, we defended the front entrance of the obelisk for the second to last story achievement, Descent to Fury. Now I gotta be honest, I have zero idea what's going on in the story of this game. I've been skipping every cutscene and just speed running from objective marker to objective marker, though not without a challenge, because again, upping the world tiers and being severely under leveled can be pretty rough, but we literally have like 35 achievements left, so unfortunately no time for lore. En route to the conclusion of the main quest line, we picked up a couple rapid fire achievements like One Man's Junk and Knowledge is Power for filling in 150 journal pages, which are basically just like lore notes that automatically unlock as you play. We then pull up to the hangar, which is the location of the final boss fight, yet again our boy Yagak. I tried this on World Tier 8, but was pretty much insta-dying, so I dropped it down to World Tier 6, put the dude on ice, and completed the main story and got the One Last Chance achievement. Now back to our initial plan. We've officially completed Phase 1, which was to finish the main quest line, and that puts us at 20 out of 52 achievements, a little under halfway there. So it's time for Phase 2, which is the cleanup. Part 1 is going to be that we have to run through all the side quests, which I've literally done one of up to this point, but thankfully the game makes it very easy for you to be able to boot up any missions at any time, so we can just backtrack to the beginning and start speed running through these and pick up any miscellaneous achievements along the way, like surpassing the Tempest for mastering a branch of our class tree, and been there done that for reaching Accolade level 10, which I haven't talked about much. It's basically just a bunch of challenges in the game, and as you complete the tiers in the challenges, you get XP, and we'll get back to these shortly. Cranking up the now called Apocalypse tiers, no longer World tiers, which is the end game system, non-stop epic loot kept dropping, which eventually got us the Legacy of Enoch achievement for being completely equipped with epic or legendary gear. For those that are interested, during the majority of my run through the side quests, I was actually using this pretty sick like Toxic Decay Technomancer build with blighted rounds to inflict decay on enemies, and the Toxic Turret, which had like a cooldown rate of 3 seconds, and every time I threw it, it stunned enemies and did like ridiculous damage. I will say this helped a lot with easing up the sponginess of elite enemies during these higher Apocalypse tiers at this point. So the next achievement just perfectly showcases how I had just shut my brain off and was just trying to get through the checklist of side missions. Turns out one of them, called the Outriders Legacy, is actually a full-on quest line. I had no idea. I thought it was the world's longest side quest, and out of nowhere, after clearing the final room, we got the Burdens We Bear achievement for completing that quest. And now along the way, we picked up the Overtime at the Morgue achievement for eliminating 3,500 enemies. And I love achievements like this because it just takes me back to the old Seriously achievements from the Gears of War days. Next up, for taking out an enemy afflicted by 4 different status effects, we get the Coup de Grace achievement, and finally getting us over that hurdle of the midpoint of the run, our 27th achievement was Prospector for mining 30 ore, which must have been foreshadowing because not long after that, we officially reached the character level cap of 30 and unlock Leave Humanity Behind. And with how long I've been doing this run for, I'm starting to feel like I already did. Anyway, we finally check off all of the side quests in the game. Well, sort of. First and foremost, we finally got the multitasking achievement, but Outriders has 24 quote-unquote side quests, but also has 30 separate quest lines, all of them having their own themed mission type and each with their own achievement tied to completing all 10 of them. But honestly, I had enough of questing, so I literally dropped the difficulty all the way down to Apocalypse Tier 1, one-shot my way through all of these quests. Patron of the Past for the Historian quest complete, which were basically just like picking up lore pieces. Hand of Death for Wanted quest complete, for taking out specific named enemies in each area, and listening to this 10 times.
Pleasure doing business, pleasure doing business, pleasure doing business.
Okay, now that my sanity is back, we finish up the hunter quest by taking out 10 more named enemies, but this time they're creatures, and we get big game hunter, which on the lowest difficulty, each took just about 45 minutes apiece. Honestly, not bad. Now, if we look at the map, I have completed all 54 of the side missions in the game, but still haven't unlocked the achievement for completing all of them. At first, I thought my game was bugged, but turns out there's actually a secret side quest called Forgotten Chapel that activates after hitting certain switches on the Canyon of the Grand Obelisk. After realizing that and completing it, we unlock Square Tasking achievement for completing all side quests. Man, I don't know what was more of a grind, getting through the main storyline or getting through the side missions. And for anyone interested, with the main quest line complete and all 55 side missions done, we're currently at about 27 hours of playtime. But with those out of the way, phase 2, the cleanup, part 1, is done. But part 2 of this is to finish off all the base game achievements that are left. And honestly, thank goodness a good chunk of these were like rapid fire from wrapping up the game, because I was really starting to feel the grind fatigue at this point. But to rack up a bunch of achievements in quick succession like this was the exact second win that I needed. These included Hard Bargainer for selling 300 items, True Potential for improving the rarity of 15 items, which was really easy. You just save up 15 green rarity items. They're super cheap to upgrade. Ace in the Hole for using a skill enhanced by 4 mods, again super easy. And Classy for completing the highest tier of 4 class-related accolades. So to quickly explain what these accolades are, again, since we have 2 more achievements tied to them, it's basically just challenges. And each class has their own set, and there's also a set of universal ones. But we're actually going to double these achievements up by going into expeditions, which is basically go into an instance, try to wipe the enemies as fast as you can, and then boom, loot pinata at the end. Because now we also need to get 1,000 kills in expeditions. Along the way, with all the loot that has been dropping, we also got the Inventor's Almanac achievement for getting 125 unique mods. And every time you dismantle a weapon with that mod for the first time, you get to unlock it and you can put it on other gear or weapons, whatever. After about 5 or 6 runs, taking 10 minutes apiece, hitting the jackpot for 1,000 kills in expeditions. And we're going to be sticking with expeditions for a little while now, and there are actually 4 in particular that we have to do. For one of them, Marshall Complex, if we interact with this computer and Exodia this thing into dust, we get the button mashing achievement. Also, conveniently, a few runs later, we get the Gravedigger's BFF achievement for getting 7,500 total kills. Now, way more than a few runs later, I don't even know. I think I ran like 20 or 30 of these expeditions on the easiest tier to wrap up the last of the Technomancer accolades. And part of me kind of wishes I paid attention to these during the story mode, but at the same time, it was like weirdly therapeutic to just keep mindlessly doing runs and focusing on getting thousands of ability kills. I don't know, achievement hunting tends to do that. There's like weird ones that are like actually relaxing to do. But at long last, that is finally over. Outrider First Class, achievement unlocked. And I noticed that right after that, I was pretty much accolade level 20, so a few quick challenges later, and we've been everywhere and done it all. However, not quite. You see, in November of 2021, Outriders dropped its New Horizons DLC, which added 4 new expeditions to the game, and we have to complete them for the Just Take the Pod achievement, which less than 2% of players unlock, and I think I know why. The first 3 were relatively easy, but in order to unlock the 4th and final New Horizons expedition, which is called the Wellspring, I had to get to Apocalypse Tier 12. And I also mentioned that because later on, the final boss in the game is going to have to be Apocalypse level 25, so I had a feeling I had a long ways to go here. Anyway, I was pretty nervous about jumping into the Wellspring because it costs resources to do, and if you fail, you lose them and your time, and I have already been running expeditions for weeks now. But regardless, Just Take the Pod unlocked. But we actually have to jump over now into an achievement that requires us to be in a duo, and the reason I saved this for the end is because, well, I have no friends. You see, every achievement in this game can be done solo, except for this one. I don't know why. So basically, I just opened up my group to public, and when someone joined, I begged for them to help me run this.
Please!
Because that's how you make friends, right?
I love you.
We speedran Molten Depths, wiped out the spiders, and 1/2 of every married couple achievement unlocked. So where does that leave us? Well, honestly, out of the 7 achievements left, 5 of them are just for playing through the Worldslayers story expansion, so not much to talk about there. I'm just gonna keep making sure I rank on my Apocalypse level as I progress through it to get to that eventual level 25 endgame achievement. I also just had a few journal pages left to fill after clearing all of the main game content, so a few missions in Worldslayers will clean that up to give us the one for the books achievement. Grinding through the story expansion netted us 3 more achievements we needed: Court Martial and Null and Void for progressing through the story, and then Apex Altered for defeating the final boss, which, don't get me wrong, was a cool fight, but the achievement didn't even pop, so I didn't get the satisfaction of that. Anyway, upon completing the Worldslayers story, you unlock what's called the Trials of Tarja Gratar, the true Outriders endgame, where all you do is farm, running through the same zones, clearing the same enemies, and defeating the same bosses. And the reason I bring this up is because this is where all 3 of the remaining achievements will be earned. Thankfully, we get 2 just for running through it and defeating the 2 Arbiter bosses with Empire of Thorns and Beyond Humanity. And though the credits started rolling, we were not done yet. I quote-unquote ended the game at Apocalypse Tier 14, and for the final achievement of the game, the achievement that less than 1% of players have unlocked, I needed to defeat the final Arbiter on Apocalypse 25. So I'm gonna have to run these trials over and over and over and over. Finally though, after weeks, I make it to the Arbiter for what feels like the 1000th run. But instead of defeating him on Apocalypse 25, I defeated him and got to Apocalypse 25. Okay. Last and final run of Trials of Tarja Gratar ever in my life, and I couldn't be happier to say that. Here we go. And finally, on the last run, I make it to Father Sanctum, and it was time to approach the apocalypse.